experience strength and hope as a mother is probably a lot like yours, you know, and I'm not going to say that I didn't have a mom growing up. I did have a mom growing up, and you know, she loved me the best way that she could. But you have to understand that my mom came from the Philippines, and when she came to the United States in the late 60s, she didn't speak English. And so my dad, you know, was in the military, which left my mom alone in the United States by herself, and she had me and my 2 brothers. So there's 3 kids and 1 woman, no husband, in the United States in the late 60s when it wasn't cool to be anything but white, and she didn't speak English. And so I kind of watched my mom be treated badly by people. And she always had a really strong character, and so she acted like it didn't bother her. But I think that it did bother her from time to time, and I kind of took that in a little bit. So that was my first representation of a woman. Okay, so she was a little subservient. She didn't speak the language. You know, she was taking care of kids, and she didn't have a lot going for her. Her husband was gone away. I saw her alone a lot. And so as my life would progress, I would continue that over and over and over again. Parenting alone, or being alone a lot, even though I had a husband. So, you know, eventually, you know, I grew into my learning about my body stage, and you know, I think because my mom came from where she came from, and that culture isn't very forthcoming with, you know, talking about the physical body, and it was, you know, it was mostly like, you don't talk about things, and it was inappropriate. And so I kind of grew up a little bit not knowing a whole lot about myself. You know what I mean? From hygiene to my first menstrual period to relationships with boys, you know, I just didn't get a lot of information. So I went to the street, and the street gave me the information. And unfortunately, the information in the street isn't the most accurate information, right? So I learned a lot about myself by what the street taught me. And the street taught me, you know, certain things that you want to do if you want to get certain things, right? And I was never taught any way different. So, you know, as I progressed through life, and you know, we get to our blossoming stage, and mine didn't happen until after high school, I began to learn about myself and what I had to offer a man. Now, from my mind, what I'm telling you is, remember, I watched my mom be alone a lot. She parented alone a lot, and you know, she never really had anything significant. So if I never had anything significant all my life, that would have been okay, because I'd watched her do that. So there was nothing for me to aspire to. I didn't have a mom that said, baby, I want you to go to college. Baby, I want you to appreciate your body. I don't want nobody to take your flower, and don't give your flower away, right? I didn't have a parental figure to do that for me. Okay? And this all gets real relevant as we grow up, you know, and then I get to parent 2 beautiful daughters, but they get the best of what I didn't get, you know, because I'm constantly trying to fix in them what was broken in me. And that's an ongoing process, you know what I mean? So, you know, as I grew up and I decided to learn about myself from other people, I started to value things that weren't really important. You know what I mean? And so I had met my match when I started using either drugs, and alcohol was my friend at a very young age, because I found out that alcohol made me fun, and I could get to house parties, and everybody just loved to be around me. You know, I'm jumping out of 2nd-story windows, and I'm the cool chick, and that was the business in the day. I had no one to tell me that that was not appropriate. Because where I came from in the circle, that was totally appropriate. That was totally okay to do, you know. And back in the day, you know, I didn't know the word addiction. I didn't know consequences. Actions equal consequences, and consequences equal jail time, and jail time equals criminal record, and criminal record. You know, I didn't understand all those things. I didn't really have a safe guide to teach me those things. You know what I mean? And the crazy part is, I didn't even know till I was in my late 30s that I kind of got gypped a little bit growing up, you know? And I didn't even learn until my late 30s that I had to forgive the person who I don't even think I had feelings for, you know? I had to forgive my mom for being her, which I didn't think was entirely fair. You know what I mean? But in order for me to grow in the process of recovery and become who I am, and expose those dirty secrets, and to embrace the woman that that I am and I've become, I had to forgive her. And I had to forgive her for being the only mom that she knew how to be. I couldn't be mad at her for parenting her the only way that she knew how to parent. You know what I mean? And so it became a process. And as I was exploring my history, you know, in the Philippines, I gotta tell you, I got spoiled to death in comparison to how my mom was treated as a kid. There wasn't a lot of affection in my house. So there wasn't hugging. That's not the Filipino culture. It's just not. Am I right? You know? You should know I love you, I'm your mom. Right? Nothing needs to be said about it. Don't question it. That's irritating. And so, as we came to the United States and we got Americanized, I got a little bit better mom than she had, but I still got a mom who was not emotionally attached to me at all whatsoever. So you know what kind of daughter that made me. Okay? So, you know, I found my love of my life in 1989. I don't want to tell my age, but in 1989 I met the love of my life, and my first sponsor was a bartender at one of the bars that I used to bartend at. And she asked me into the bathroom and she told me that there was a present for me on the back of the toilet. It was just a little tiny line of some white substance, and she told me immediately, it's gonna burn when you do it, it's gonna leave a terrible taste in your mouth. And I thought about it for all of about 2.2 seconds. And then I snorted that son of a bitch. And then I was off and running. And I gotta tell you, I tell my clients all the time, I suffered immediate negative consequences as a result of that decision. Immediately. Like, I immediately started stealing from my job, I immediately started getting caught, I immediately started getting fired, so I immediately started to go for another job, and then I get fired from that job because I couldn't make it to work. Crazy thing, I was awake the whole time. I don't know why I couldn't make it to work. You know, I was awake, I just couldn't make it to the job. You know, and that's kind of a pattern of history, you know. So then I met my children's father shortly thereafter, you know, and I had went to high school with him, and he was in business, and then we lost touch, and then we got back together, you know, and he was in the game as well, you know, and I thought, gosh, there's my second sponsor, right there. Since he's a dope man, I'm, you know, be able to give him a supply and demand, and, you know, and then we started having kids, and then we got married, and we lived together for a really long time, and it wasn't really good, and I can't really be mad at him because his definition of a mother, you know, was what it was, and I'm not here to tell his story or get into his fourth step of inventory, but we were destined to be together by how he was raised as well, you know. So, what I will tell you is I came to the process of recovery not by volunteer. I didn't volunteer to be here. It wasn't my idea, it wasn't my choice, you know. I was told that if I didn't come to treatment, if I didn't get some sort of treatment, then I was going to go to prison. I didn't want to go to prison, you know. Long story short, there's all those little tiny details in between, like you all share, you know, we're out in the street, we get kicked out, we're homeless, we eat out the trash cans, we sleep outside, we do strange things to our body. We do strange things to other people do strange things to us, we do hideous things to people, we commit felonies, we do all kinds of things. We have babies out of wedlock, we have babies when we're loaded, we're getting loaded and the placenta is still coming out, you know what I mean? And that's the kind of life that we lead. So I feel like when I'm telling you that, there's no light bulbs going off in the room. You feel me. Because you've been there, you know. And it was crazy because I remember a couple times during that journey, I had that moment of clarity, like a couple times. It was a strange moment of clarity. It wasn't a moment of clarity that said, hey, go get some help. It wasn't one of those moments of clarity. Maybe you could tap. Curtains, and it was great. I was like, dang, the sunlight is great. In my world, it was great. Okay, and it was real smoky, and it smelled like wet carpet. Okay, wet carpet with mold, and the air was real cold because I had the air on like 50 degrees because my body temperature was so hot, you know. And I could see my breath coming out, and I just remember the smell, and I remember the smell of smoke, the smell of the pipe. You know what I mean? And then all the black char marks on my hands and the inside of my shirt. Like, and I remember that moment of clarity, and I was like, is this what I was supposed to do with my life? You know? It was a moment of like, I didn't have no aspirations to counteract what I was feeling, but at that moment in life, I was like, damn, is this what I'm supposed to do with my life? Meanwhile, on the other side of the apartment, the TV's real loud because the Disney Channel's on. The kids are probably in the back of the house looking at the TV or something like that, And I got all the curtains are drawn in the living room, and it was just so void of human contact. You know what I mean? And my husband was always gone all the time, so I was always left alone. And I remember I used to think I was the crazy lady, because I would walk around my house literally like this, and I'd be talking to myself. And I'd be like, oh, I think I'm crazy. And then I tell myself, I'm like, bitch, you're talking to yourself. You just told yourself you're crazy. Like literally like talking to myself to tell me that I'm crazy for talking to myself. And I felt that. I felt that incomprehensible demoralization that the Big Book of Alcoholics talks about. I was so glad to find a definition for how I felt. I was so grateful that somebody else had done the work and explored some things, and they were like, well, this is what it's called. I said, oh, wow, is that what it's called? In a nutshell, incomprehensible demoralization. I felt so little and broken and rusty and crusty and dirty. I still remember what it smelled like on my skin. You know what I mean? And I still didn't even have enough hope. I still didn't even have enough hope to wish for a different life. Because I was so void of any hope anymore. I hope he come home real soon. I hope the electricity don't get cut off on Monday morning. Like those were my big hopes. I mean, I wasn't hoping for no Star Spangled Banner, or I wasn't hoping for groceries. I wasn't hoping for them to go to college. I wasn't hoping that, we'd get a house someday. Like those were out of my mind's eye. I wasn't able to hope that big. You know what I mean? And I remember during those times in the very last days, I called them the last days. Because that was the last days, and then I got arrested, and then from being arrested, I got sent to jail for a little bit, and then from jail for a little bit, then they kicked me out to the program, and my life changed tremendously. And immediately, even though at the time I was like, well, it wasn't a significant thing that happened, but it changed tremendously for me. So in those last days, I remember feeling, what the Big Book of Alcoholics talks about, being hopeless, I remember being hopeless, even though I didn't know that was the word they call it, hopeless. I just felt like I was depressed. I thought I was depressed. That's what I call it. I called it depressed. I said I'm depressed because I don't have no more whatchamacallit left. I mean, if Dee's gone, or him's gone, or him's not acting right, or whatever the situation. I wasn't depressed that my children weren't going to school. I wasn't depressed that I had no more food stamps. I wasn't depressed that we were getting ready to get the pink notice on there. I wasn't depressed about any of that other stuff, And so in those final days, I made attempts to recognize what was going on, even though I was in that stupor. You know what I mean? And in that stupor, I thought to myself, is this what it's all about? And I was perfectly comfortable with it being that. Which is unbelievable, because I have such high dreams for myself now. But I was perfectly comfortable back in the day for that to be as good as it got. I mean, damn. Come on now. I was okay with that. Like what I just described to you, the smell, the taste, the feel, I was cool with that being it. Right? So you can only imagine how little my dreams were. My dreams must have been so little if that was okay with me. And then to tell the story that my probation officer came to see me, and she was a real stickler. She was giving me a hard time, but it's always someone else's fault, right? I was like, maybe she must don't like me because she's jealous of me. That's what we always say. We always say that female, that she's jealous of me, Like, even though I probably look like, like this, and that's as much as I weighed when she came to see me, but I think she's jealous of me looking like that, right? I mean, she got a house and a job and a car, and I live in the ghetto in the Ville, and my house is dirty, I don't have food, but she's jealous of me, though, right? So she would like come to see me, she dropped the card off, she's like, check it out, you will come on this day, and you're going to UA for me, and I'm like, well, damn, that's, you know, you gotta be so rough about it, you know? Have we work our way into a relationship, you know what I mean? You know, no, Tuesday you gotta be there, okay? Well, I had called her on that Tuesday, and I was like, I can't make it, okay? Because I'm going a job searching. And this seemed like a plausible, you know, excuse at the time, but I was just loaded. I couldn't manage not to get loaded over the weekend, and so I knew I was going to be dirty on that time. So, you know, she tells me on that day, Tuesday, okay, I want to see you on Thursday. I'm like, okay. So, you know, Thursday come around, I have another excuse, and she comes back to the joint. She comes back to the joint, and I'm shocked to see her at my doorstep. Just shocked. And she said, check it out. You will be at my office on Monday at this time, or I'm coming next time I come get you, I'm gonna lock you up. And I remember my children's father standing at the door, like, oh no, you know, because the probation officer, tell me why I shouldn't lock her up right now. And the baby daddy was like, no, don't lock her up, we got the kid, you know, she don't really try, and you know. I remember him standing there doing that for me, and I was like, all right, that's nice, you know. And so then I knew on that Thursday that I couldn't mess around till Monday. I knew that, right? So I was like, okay, and I told him, I said, okay, shut it down. Nobody in or out. You know, you gotta support me because they're gonna take me away. And I do not have the capacity within myself to say no. So I just need you to just shut it down. And then after I go visit this lady or whatever on Monday, then we can get back rolling again. But before, from Thursday all the way to Monday, please shut it down. So, you know, things were cool, we shut it down, and so then we went into our hibernation stage. We went into hibernation where you sleep the whole entire time. You get up in that foggy haze and go to the bathroom, and maybe eat food and the wrapper's stuck to your face and you fall back asleep on it, you know, because that's how we do, right? So, you know, I just have like a really foggy haze of those last days. And then Sunday night, it was like about, I don't know, like about 1 o'clock in the morning. There's a knock at my door. Knock, 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 knock. And I'm in their kids' room in the back, and he's in the other room because he's with his girlfriend, and my kids are sleeping in the house, and I hear knock, 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 and I listen. And then I think it's what I think, but I don't know if it's what I think, and then I hear a knock, knock, knock again at the door. I hear his door open up. I hear him walk down the hallway. I hear the front door open up. I hear, then I hear the door close. And I listen intently. I'm listening. And then I hear the lighter. I was like, well, maybe he's smoking a cigarette. And then I heard the lighter again. And then I hear talking. I was like, oh, hell no, right? Oh, no. I hop out of bed and I go to the living room and I see him and another him sitting there. I was like, what is you guys doing? They're like, oh, he's like, go back to bed. I'm like, no, that's not cool. You know I gotta go to the thing on Monday. He's like, I know, go back to bed. Okay. So I go back to bed. I sit there for a second. I hear the lighter again. I'll never forget how that lighter sounds on the rolly ball thing, you know? I get out of bed. I go back to the living room. I say, let me have them. And he was like, no, Dee, go back to bed. I'm like, man, that's not right. Then I put it on him. I said, how dare you do that? You know I'm going to go there. I'm like, it ain't right how you do that. I literally start, you know, I throw my fit, my grown adult fit. Let me have some, let me have some, let me have some, let me have some. How could you do this when it ain't right? So I let me have some. And 7 o'clock rolls around and he gets somebody to take me to my probation officer because he can't drive me. He got to stay with the kids. And I can't drive myself because I'm freaking loaded out of my mind, right? And you know that it would take me 7 hours to get someplace that only takes 30 minutes if I'm loaded, right? So he has his partner come, drive us in my car over to the place. I tell the partner, I said, check it out, wait for me right here. Just wait right here, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna be right back. And those are my infamous last words in my very last day. I said, I'm gonna be right back. Go inside, probation officer called my name, sent me to the back, I got my little report paper. She's looking at me, she's like, if I test you today, it's gonna be, you know, dirty. I said, absolutely not, officer. She said, okay, come on. So she went and got one of the instant ones, took me to the bathroom, in a cup, you know, and she stuck that dick strip in there. And that some bitch lit up like a Christmas tree. And I pretended not to notice, you know. And she said, get your ass in my office. I went to her office and I sat there and she said, I told you, it wasn't playing, she said, I told you when you came here I was going to UA you. And I told you every single time you come here I'm going to UA you, and I'm going to UA you every single time you come here. I'm thinking, damn, why is she so repetitious all the time? You know, what am I, you think I'm stupid? You know? So she said, I need you to stand up, put your hands behind your back. I was like, oh, okay, you got me, you know. Because I still had a couple tricks up my sleeve that work every single time. So I stood up, she put my hands behind my back, she told me to sit down, now she's filling out paperwork, now she's calling for backup. And I was like, you know, we don't gotta go all there with all the dramatics, you know. I'm telling her, you know, come on, give me one more chance. She's like, every time you come here, you're dirty. She goes, and that's if you do come here. And I told you today, she said, if you'd have been honest with me, I'd have let you go. I said, you know, come on, give me one more time, one more gift, you know. And she said, no, I'm like, yeah. See, and this is already, I'm knowing that the judge told me to, if you see me again, he'll put me in prison, you know. And I really don't want to get locked up. He takes really good notes. I just knew when I got there that he was going to read the notes, and he said he was going to put me in the penitentiary. I didn't want to go to the penitentiary. I told the lady, I said, come on, give me one more chance. I said, don't do this to me. I said, don't do this to my kids. And she said, I'm not doing this to your kids, I'm doing this for your kids. And I wanted to punch her in her throat. But my hands was behind my back. And I looked at her and she could have been so many, every other words in the dictionary to me at that time. I hated her guts at that time. You know, and so she locked me up. And I remember driving out of the parking lot in the police car, and my homeboy, who was still waiting in the parking lot for me, in my car, you know. And then not even then for a long time after that, because I was in treatment for months. So I was locked up for months. And then I went to treatment for months. And I said the only thing I would change about that day, only thing I would have changed about that day, as I would have kissed him goodbye before I left, because I didn't know I wasn't coming back. So I was walking out the door that day, and I turned around and I looked at my husband. And he goes, what's the matter with you? And I go, I don't know, I just feel weird. I feel weird. And he goes, oh, you're going to be all right. I love it. I was like, I go, I don't think I'm going to be all right. He goes, oh, you're going to be all right, maybe just tripping. I was like, okay, so, you know, I was like, okay, I love you. And I left, and I never came home. I never came back to that life. I never came back to that gray room. I never seen them again. I went to court. Judge, you know, said you're going to go to treatment. And then I went to treatment, it was another 3 months, and I didn't get to see them again. They came for a visit, I don't know, like 6 months later. I haven't seen them for 6 months. But that's the only thing that would change. And I think that, well, I know that going to treatment was the best thing that ever happened to me as a parent. And, you know, I told you earlier, I'm constantly trying to fix in them what's broken in me. And that's a hard job because I'm really broken in there, you know? And I don't know what part of me's broken until it comes up, and then I'm trying to fix it in them, and my daughter's like, Mom, please, let's go outside. You know what I mean? I think the best thing that ever happened to me was the worst thing that ever happened to me at the same time, simultaneously. You know, and that can only come from an experience when we're really, really, really honest about where we're at today. Like, we gotta be so honest about it that we can see through the truth. I mean, this is where I am, this is what I've done, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. You know, I say all the time, my kids have more clean time than me. They're so freaking smart. I'm so fortunate to be able to be their mom. Amen. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't have picked a better mom for them than me. We're perfect for each other, you know? And we've been doing it by ourselves for a really long time. I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom their whole entire life. And I'm really fortunate, you know, that I have 2 sets of kids. I have the kids that belong to me from my womb, and then, you know, I have you guys too at the same time. That if you give me just a moment of your time, I'll show you the way. I'm so confident that the program works that you will be better when you leave. I'm so confident in the program. Not confident about me personally, because I remember I'm broken. But I will give you the suggestions that were taught to me. I do know the way. I do know a couple things. And I will show you how to go there and do that. The best gift I got out of treatment was when the first step was presented to me by my sponsor. She said, you're going to find forgiveness in the first step. I said, forgiveness and powerlessness all at the same time? And she said, yeah, because once you realize that you wouldn't have done that unless you were loaded, then you get to forgive yourself. And I got to be honest with you, I'm 7 years and some change, and I only just started telling myself I'm sorry to myself and it's okay to myself just recently, And it's a journey. All of our details are a little bit different, but it's a journey that we've all traveled. And we don't have to beat ourselves up for that. And I know that's where some of us are at, especially if you don't have your kids with you. And the first thing that you want to do is go back to them. But your mind ain't right yet. If you're in this room with me and you belong to me, your mind's not ready yet for that. You just got to wait a little bit longer in the incubator. So with that being said, I'm here today. I have a couple things that are super, super great. And, I got a really great job, and I get to work with really great people, and I have really great kids, and, all this stuff I've acquired over these years. Nobody's came to repossess them or anything. They belong to me, and I can open my door freely without that orange thing being stuck to the outside of it. I don't have to run down to the meter box and tell the power guy, I'm going to go pay it right now, I don't have to do any of that. And when we're out of groceries, we go grocery shopping. Really wacky stuff, And it's just really fortunate. I feel really fortunate. It's been an amazing journey. I'm sure, I work really hard so that they can have opportunities that weren't opportunities to me. Not because someone didn't want to give them to me, but someone didn't know how to give them to me. So that's why I work so hard. But anyways, that being said, just happy Mother's Day to everybody. I hope that you go forward in your day forgiving, your mom, or if you don't have a mom, that you find someone who represents all those qualities and you make her your mom. And that's what I had to do. I actually did call my biological mom today, and I wished her a happy Mother's Day. And I got to tell you, I didn't feel a whole lot of Star Spangled Banner, but I did what I was supposed to do as a daughter. I wished her a happy Mother's Day, and she said thank you. So, baby steps. Anyways, thanks for listening.